Good evening. My name is Alexander Adams, and my research topic is on Herbert Clark Hoover, specifically the years before his presidency, as he has various fascinating tales involving American, world, and entrepreneurial history. My research is being pulled from three main sources. First, his Presidential Library and Museum website. Second, from the Miller Center with UVA, and third, his personal memoirs, specifically Volume 1, Years of Adventure, 1874 to 1920. Unfortunately, Hoover lost his parents at an early age, and he and his siblings lived with his uncle John Winthorne in Oregon. His uncle had started up the Oregon Land Company, where Hoover served there as an office boy. He developed a relationship and partnership with the office boy in a neighboring insurance company. After hours, they went to a local scrapyard and purchased a set of broken down machines for $20. And they sifted through and found multiple still usable parts that they attempted to sell to predominantly housewives for $1 a piece. Unfortunately, they weren't all that successful. They still wound up $20 in the hole. But as Hoover himself said, we learned a powerful lot about the insides of sewing machines. And during this time, he was able to cultivate his skills as a salesman. And as Dr. Kerry Roberts points out in his video, The Big Picture of American Industrialization, one of the themes for this course, as well as all of entrepreneurial history, is this idea of improvement, of how successful entrepreneurs convince their customers that the service that they are about to render is more valuable than the customer's money that they would keep without the service. Well, it was about time for Hoover to attend college, and it was this time that Stanford University, named after Senator Stanford, was developed in Palo Alto, California. And Hoover convinced his parents, who otherwise would have wanted him to go to a Quaker college in Indiana, he convinced them that there was a mathematics professor, Joseph Swain, that was giving math tutoring, which is a field that Hoover didn't excel at, and Joseph Swain was a well-known Quaker. And during his time at Stanford, he met his future wife and future First Lady, Lou Henry. He also developed a business, a laundry service with a couple of other classmates. He also served in various odd jobs, such as working at the registrar's office for the university. And he had played on their basketball team, but just like with me and my high school soccer team, he and his teammates discovered that he probably shouldn't be on the court and he would be best suited as team manager. And in this capacity, he and other assistants circled their court because it wasn't enclosed, and they would gather ticket money. Well, in this job, he came in close proximity to former President Benjamin Harrison. Senator Stanford had convinced Harrison to come to Stanford to deliver a series of lectures. And in between lectures, Benjamin Harrison attended one of these games, and Hoover found out that one of his assistants hadn't gathered the ticket money from the former president. And in his memoirs, Hoover figured that it was because he was a former president that the assistant was too shy. But Hoover didn't care. He confronted the former president, and Harrison was more than willing to give them more than enough money for the ticket. But Hoover pointed out to him that they're not a charitable organization. He wasn't able to accept more money than was needed. So President Harrison was gracious enough to purchase multiple tickets with the money. Shortly after Stanford in 1896, he worked in nearby San Francisco with engineer Louis Janine, and Hoover ultimately got promoted to an engineering position himself. During his time there, Janine got a notice from a British mining firm called Buick Moring and Company, and they were asking for an engineer to work with them in Australia. Janine asked Hoover about it and said that he would have missed his service, but since Janine was only giving him $200 a month and this mining firm was willing to give him $600 a month, Janine convinced Hoover to take the job. So he traveled to Australia, and during his time there, he was offered a position as a mining consultant in the Tianjin province in China, which Hoover accepted. And by cable, he proposed to Lou Henry, and he traveled back to California where they had an impromptu wedding. And then the very next day, February 11th, 1899, they sailed to China. Unfortunately, his time in China was met up with a destiny as they got caught up in the infamous Boxer Rebellion, which targeted foreigners and native Chinese that had foreign relations. And thus we get to the turn of the 19th century. So, as can be clearly seen, Hoover's life, even before the presidency, is fascinating, and it gives further proof to the concept of this entrepreneurial class that even in studying the small details, such as someone's salary, can garner very interesting entrepreneurial stories as that can connect with overall American and world history. Thank you very much for your attention. Have a blessed evening.